So here's what I've been thinking about lately. In relation to oozeulacrum, and now the reason I've been thinking about that is because the thing which tips you over the edge is just understanding what God is. That's sort of easy to conceptually think about. Oh yeah, God is thought textures, right? God has experienced heavens and hells, but the important moment, the moment in which it clicks, is the moment in which you realize what you are in God. Like, God, you realize what God is, the giant puzzle which God is, and you realize exactly which piece you are and what that means. And step 2, black hole gravitational slingshot, is basically just the logical next step after realizing what that means. It is, oh, you understand what that means, you understand what you are, you understand what God is, now what do you do? And that's the question which black hole answers. And, that in relation to is extremely important. I'm not going to detail my experience within the shower. I was having closed eye meditation with this framework, the first time I'd ever done it, really, which is kind of insane. And what happened was I was having trouble switching over into... I could conceptually understand what God was, but the click just wasn't happening until I finally understood exactly what my thoughts were. What my thoughts were in God, and what I was in God. You know what I mean? It's like a vibe check in that way, where you are realizing what you are. Like that's the moment which it clears, because it isn't in relation to. It isn't realizing that particular thing in relation to God. It is realizing what you, as an entity, fully what you are in God. That's really, I suppose, the only way to understand God. God has been understood through forms. Yeah. It also is very similar to the old idea of every layer, which has come up multiple times now, but specifically the idea that you focus on one specific thing, and that thing gets you over the line, that thing gets you to the slingshot. Specifically that piece of that idea, I find it's pretty much happening in this one, where it's the emphasis of... You typically sight. Typically, I will through vision, sort of focus on what this is in relation to God. So, for instance, what in relation to God actually looks like is you're basically just thinking about God, right? You're simulating God, and you're simulating exactly what God would think about this, right? So, for me, that's typically I'm riding my dirt bike and I'm looking at the trees, and what starts to happen is I start to fully understand what this looks like. I understand what this looks like and what everything else could look like. And I understand the vast diversity in vision, and I even understand that there are universes which have no vision, that vision isn't even a part of. And that is how I use vision to spark in relation to. It's one layer. But you can do that with any layer. Man, this is good shit right here, because that's essentially what script falls into. Where essentially, you can pick a layer, and in the shower it was mine, but typically it's vision, and then you just continue thinking about what is this thing in relation to God, or what would God feel about this thing, until eventually, click, you are God. You are God in human form. You are just God appreciating existence. So, that's some shit to work with right there. Think about that. Ow. Howdy, X86 Army. Today I am going to be talking about framework, as always, lately. But today we have so I was fucking with the abbreviation, and right around oozeulacrum, I was thinking oozeulacrum is not enough of a description. Oozeulacrum is really useful, but it doesn't describe the script part. We need to put script in there. And then I was thinking, yeah, but honestly, in relation to is kind of maybe even more accurate than script. But script does have something new, a new quality that we shouldn't just get rid of, because no one's old. And so I was thinking maybe you do all three. Maybe it's IRS. Maybe in relation to God and script. I'll just throw them in there. And then I was thinking, it's something more complicated than that. We kind of need to make a new word, because script is part of it. It is kind of whenever you reorganize your ego, but more accurately, it's whenever you put something in context to God. So we could call it in context. I haven't decided on the name yet, but it's whenever you realize something in relation to God. It is whenever you dissolve a layer, whenever you take sight or mind or any of these things, and then you take them and then you understand what that thing is in relation to God. That's when it snaps, and that's whenever you sort of come to. That's whenever you're God in the body, and that's a very, very important part of it. And we need to think what are we going to call them?